Imagine waking up one morning and finding out that the person dearest to you has died and you couldn't even say goodbye. Well, this is my reality. My dad was in the hospital because he was having upper body chest pains. I visited him every day I got out of school and stayed with him night and days on the weekends. My dad was my heart, and not too long ago, I used to think that without him, I am and have nothing. So one day he called me and told me that everything was fine and he was going to be getting out of the hospital in a couple of days. The following morning, on August 26 of 2007, at 4:32 a.m., my mom received a call from the hospital. I was still asleep, so I didn't know what was going on. I woke up and my mom was just staring at me in dismay. I gave her a clueless look, and that's when she told me my father had passed away earlier that morning. Just the thought of not being able to see my dad again, it really broke me down until I could barely breathe and I fainted. I started screaming and crying, telling my mom that it couldn't be true. I asked her to take me to the hospital because I wanted to see my dad, but she just basically told me he was gone. So I ran away trying to reach the hospital to prove to my mom that she was wrong, but she caught up with me in the car and took me home. My dad's death wasn't his fault. I know you're probably thinking that maybe he had a heart attack or something went wrong, but in actuality, my dad was as strong as a horse. The hospital's negligence was the reason for his death. They wouldn't even let my father's body be released from the hospital because they couldn't find out what was wrong with him. My dad's body was held for almost 2 weeks, and they finally found out what was the cause of his death. The hospital had given my dad another patient's medicine, and it killed him. Do you know how upset and angry I was? I wasn't just mad at the hospital and its employees. I was mad with the whole world. I was so sick that I could never keep anything up. My weight was plummeting. I was always livid. Friends who I knew since my childhood stopped talking to me, and quite frankly, I didn't care. After that, my whole world changed. Before all of this, I was a well-known athlete playing every sport available at my school, a straight-A student and a very social person. When my dad died, I despised school. So I began skipping and letting my grades fall from straight A's to straight D's and F's. I didn't play any sports, and I was extraordinarily antisocial. I barely talked to anyone at school. I felt like an outcast, like something was missing in my life, but it was impossible for me to get. Before I came to AVID, I attended this school called Samuel R. Wolfson. I was horrible there. I never went to class. I didn't care about my grades, and I always wanted to fight. When report cards came out, I never showed my mom my report card. I simply threw it away in the trash because I didn't care. One very bad day when I was on the bus, this girl who didn't like me said something smart out the mouth to me. Before I knew it, I was in jail for battering. I was maced and I hit an officer, but luckily he knew my parents and didn't give me a felony for assaulting him. I suffered some major consequences due to my atrocious behavior. I had to go to court to pay a $200 fine, do 10 weeks of anger management, attend 3 weeks of a Focus on Females class, and complete 50 hours of community service. I was also kicked out of homeschool and had to enroll in an alternative school. On top of that, I had to write an apology letter, which was the worst part. I felt as if I didn't owe anybody an apology. For anything, everybody owed me an apology for what I had to go through. As a result, the sad thing is that after all the problems I faced, I continued to do the same thing when I went back to school. Finally, my mom said she had enough and sent me to Robert E. Lee and got me into that AVID program. After the first couple of days, I began to socialize with some people. I was not completely out of my shell, but I did communicate. As weeks went by, my grades began to progress from D's and F's to straight A's and B's. In fact, I'm thinking about doing sports again. Being in Miss Montgomery's AVID class influenced me in a way I can't even explain. I had to apprehend that I couldn't let one thing stop me from achieving my goals. Even though it was an immeasurable tragedy, I had to continue to stay on the right path. I have so much to do to reach my goals, and I can't achieve any of that without the proper education and behavior. I want to go to college to become a doctor because I love helping others, and I want to have a loving family with a beautiful and happy home. I don't think that any college will want an aggressive, stubborn, tough, wannabe delinquent. I remember the last day that I saw my dad at the hospital. I told him that I would be in this same hospital taking good care of people. He made me promise him that I would continue to make good grades in school and go to college. And if he could have looked at me then, he would have been so ashamed. Miss Montgomery's AVID class influenced me in a way that's indescribable. Even on the first day, everybody in class was so open and trusting. I wanted to feel what they were feeling. I wanted to feel their happiness, which was something that I hadn't felt in a long time. I noticed that Miss Montgomery was like a mother to the students. She gave students a lot of attention and helped them out with their problems, even the ones that wasn't school-related. The more time I spent in Miss Montgomery's class, the more I began to open up. Not just in her class, but everywhere. My mom noticed a change, my friends did too, and people who I didn't even know told me I look happy on a daily basis. Without AVID, I don't think I would be where I am now. Looking at the past and looking at the path that I was taking, I think that I would have probably been in jail. There is no way that I can pay Miss Montgomery, my mom, and AVID back for what they have done for me. The only thing that I can do now is continue to make good grades and try to make them proud. Thanks so much, Miss Montgomery and AVID, for all that you have done for me, and I promise to do my best in the future. I'll leave you with a quote from Maya Angelou. Each of us has the right and responsibility to assess the road which lie ahead, and those over which we have traveled. If the future road looms ominous or unpromising, and the road back uninviting and inviting, then we need to gather our resolve. And carrying only the necessary baggage, step off that road into another direction. If the new choice is also unpalatable without embarrassment, we must be ready to change that as well, because I am a phenomenal woman. Thank you.